Is it recording? I'm not there.
Yeah, you're recording.
Okay, perfect. Okay. I, Kira Ryan, start the October 5th meeting of the Associated Students Western Washington University Executive Board meeting to order at 5:33 p.m. Okay, it looks like nobody is here for a public forum today. So we're going to move on from that, and we can always readdress it if we need to. Do we have any revisions to the agenda that we would like to make? Okay, so we're going to move on to officer reports today. We arranged it so I kind of like the structure of talking at the very beginning and then moving into more of the official stuff. To kind of model it after what the Board of Trustees do. They normally do the chair reports and reports from guests first, and then they move into official business. So talking about the Board of Trustees, one document that I linked is document 1 on there, is I just wanted to provide you guys with my report to the Board of Trustees. That is going to be happening on October 12th and 13th. 13th is when they conduct official business. The 12th is when they're going to be meeting with a couple of union representatives. There's a couple of things of importance that are going to be on the Board of Trustees meeting, discussing fees, and a couple of other things like that. We have also been invited to a reception that we can attend. Everybody's got on the calendar Outlook invite for it. That is going to be with some of the Board of Trustees in a reception that's going to be happening at 5 p.m. in Old Main. And so we are going to be adjusting our meeting time accordingly next week. So we are going to be starting at 6 p.m. instead of 5 p.m. so we can stay for almost the entire hour during that time. And then we're also going to be doing some photos and headshots so we can use them for the website before that, so everybody has gotten an invite. Yeah, before I move on, I wanted to provide a moment if anybody wanted to discuss anything that I included in my board report to the Board of Trustees. I'm going to have about 5 minutes to speak at the Board of Trustees meetings, and everybody has been invited to this one if they would like to come and speak and introduce themselves during my 5 minutes, or you're also encouraged to sign up during public comment. Yes?
Okay, so for number 2, addressing student concerns, I'm paraphrasing, but you have these lines about not scattering our efforts across multiple issues, but like centralizing it into something that's like garnering significant support from the student body. I was just wondering, like, what were you thinking, like how that was going to look like, or like,
Yeah, I'm not sure, since we're at the very beginning of it. It's something that we like talked about throughout the summer a little bit, but kind of using this as a way that we can have an intersection between student senate and executive board, hopefully working something together. And one way that I thought would be an effective way is the LAC already sends out a survey that sets out like different students' priorities, and getting an idea from that. Or also it can be as small as something of like us working together to amend the Constitution or the bylaws. And so just working together in a collaborative way, whether it is something addressing a really big student concern or something small that all students would be voting on, like the Constitution or something like that. So.
Okay, cool. So we're gonna have something that's like unifying student gov like towards
hope in some way or another. That's the hope.
Yeah. Yes. Cool. Yeah, just wanted some clarification. I was curious. It sounds cool.
Yeah, of course. And I think there's different ways that this could manifest and take hold over the year. So. Yes.
I think maybe one of the ways that sort of like centralization could happen is like last year I kind of spearheaded the creation of the like student advisory committee. I see Adam. I'm trying to make this so you can hear me, Adam. And I think that for like student issues at the university level would like be kind of a good venue for that, as opposed to like, I mean, that's sort of like the essential, like maybe a way about that, maybe putting out a survey through that committee, similar to the LAC, but sort of like focused like the Western level, but also, yeah, there's a whole lot of ways we can go with this, and that community is not fully, it's actually like, it exists on paper and that's it. So that's something that can be worked on as we move through the year.
Yeah, I really like that idea too. I feel like, especially since the Student Advisory Committee, if you aren't aware, that Senate President Wong started last year, deals specifically it was to pick one issue, correct, and focus on that for the year that related to students. So yeah, I agree, that was definitely a good thing. I didn't even think about that. So, does anybody else have any other thoughts or clarification? No, okay, so let's move on to some other things. The Office of Civic Engagement has invited us to a candidate forum that's going to be happening on October 10th. They would like somebody to give a brief introduction to student government and also do their land acknowledgement. It's going to be a candidate forum for the county sheriff, and it is because we've asked all AS offices and a couple of other entities within the associated students and within the university if they can invite us to their events as part of student outreach. And so within all of our job description, it has us visiting 3 AS events every single quarter. And so I just wanted to ask and provide an open invitation if anybody would like to move forward with that, or is that something that anybody would be interested in getting?
Well, I've been helping with planning the event, and it's really exciting, so I hope that all of us will have the opportunity to go. It's going to be really impactful. I have to recuse myself from the opportunity. Oh, also Aaron Godwin. I don't really work this stuff to introduce myself, sorry. But I will not give like the introduction, not that anybody like recommended me. Because I'm a member of the Young Democrats in Western, and we've had an engagement or an endorsement for one of the candidates, so one of y'all can pick that up and take the lead on that introduction.
It doesn't have to be decided now. I just wanted to put it on everybody's radar. We'll be sending a further update and we can decide who wants to do it. And then moving on to some other business within my chair report is I am doing weekly classroom visits. And so everybody is encouraged to do club visits that align with where your position is out looking, or residence hall visits in Sophie's case possibly. And then in this effort to visit classes, I'm trying to visit 2 classes every week to give like a 5-minute presentation on student government. And so this week I'm attending a 107 math class with Dr. Dini, and that's going to be at 10 a.m. and 11 a.m. And one of the College of Science and Economics senators is going to be joining me. And if anybody's interested, they're welcome to attend future ones, and I really encourage you to start reaching out to different classrooms that would relate to different areas of your work or topics of your work, and then also clubs. And if you're reaching out to classrooms specifically, I really encourage you to reach out to whatever college it is, reach out to the senators that are within that college, so that we're having a executive board and student senate rep that's going to be visiting. And then the final thing that I wanted to talk about today is Vice President for Enrollment and Student Services, Melinda Husky, has a student advisory committee that she is recruiting people for. Sophie, you sit on that committee, correct? Yes, yeah. So Vice President Snyder sits on that committee, and they're looking for, how many students sit on it? Is it 18?
Well, there's too much how many students sit on it and how many people go. So, probably, I think like 20, but I'm trying to look up. 11 show up. Yeah, sorry.
No, it's all good. Adam Lorio, Student Government Advisor, and also Logistical Manager for Melinda Husky's Student Advisory Council Group. I can clarify it's up to 14 students who apply to serve on the Advisory Council for Dr. Husky. They meet once a month for about an hour and a half, and they are looking for applications from across all student interests, level of student, major, student status across campus. So that would be greatly appreciated.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, and it looks like meetings are going to be scheduled monthly on Wednesdays at 3:30 p.m. starting October 18th. Okay, I know that that was a lot of business before we do introductions, so my apologies about that. But let's move on to information items, and let's start with introductions around the room. I can start first. My name is Kira Ryan. I use she, her pronouns, and I am the AS president this year.
I'm Gabe Wong. I'm the student senate president this year. I use she and they pronouns.
My name is Erin Godwin. I'm the vice president for governmental affairs. I use they, them pronouns.
I'm Morgan Witt, and I'm the VP for diversity, and I use she, her pronouns.
I'm Liam Pratt. I use he, him pronouns. I'm vice president for sustainability.
I'm Sophie Snyder. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm VP for student services.
Rachel, would you like to introduce yourself?
I'm Rachel Buckman. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm a student government assistant for the executive board.
I'm Nellie. I use she, her pronouns. I'm the SGA for student senate. I'm just here to help Rachel out with her first meeting.
Awesome evening. Again, Adam Lorio, student government advisor and special project manager for Enrollment Student Services.
Okay. Next, we can move on to ground rules for discussion. This is really an open-ended conversation, and it also doesn't have to stop here. This is something that we can continue to revisit again and again, but we're just going to be partaking in some difficult conversations that we will likely disagree on subject matter that comes up this year, and that is totally fine. And so this is kind of just laying some ground rules and also talking specifically about, we can create ground rules specifically for our meetings moving forward, but this is more of just a time to share kind of our boundaries, how we would like to talk to each other in this meeting, and the certain levels of respect we're going to be providing each other. And so if you feel comfortable, it would be amazing if you could kind of share a little bit about how you desire to talk to each other in this meeting and the ways that you value discussing things in this meeting or in these meetings. So yeah, I can kind of start first. So conversations can be hard, and we're going to disagree. We're going to talk about so many different issues this year, and there's a couple of things that I wanted to go over. I took a couple of these things from Dr. Paul Chen, who's a professor in the political science department. I think almost everybody here has had a class with him. Almost, yeah. Gabe, have you had a class? So I think Gabe is the only person who's not had a class with him, which that's okay. But in his syllabus, he outlines a couple of very important rules that I think that I at least admire and appreciate. And so a couple of them are prior to disagreeing with one of the board members that are here, it's really, or any guests that we have too in this meeting, because we will have guests in the meeting. Before we disagree with somebody, it's really important that we understand their view or position, because you can't disagree with somebody if you don't understand them. The point that I think is most important, though, is really mutual integrity. It's the belief that others, including those who you disagree with, have the belief that what they're doing is they're trying their best to do what is right, what is just, what is good, that we're all desiring to do good. None of us are desiring or coming to the board meetings meaning to do anything unjust, meaning to do anything unethical or wrong. That's really not what we're trying to do. And so really just having mutual integrity for each other. And just the respect that we need to have while disagreeing. It's crucial that we maintain an atmosphere that it can be critical, but it has to be constructive. I know personally I do not do well when situations get extremely heated. I really like to have a more cool, collected environment, and even possibly, depending on what the topic is, maybe even some time to sit with the material that we're having and kind of take some time to think it over so then we can come back to it at a later time. The board meetings are set up in a specific way that most topics we will see once as an info item and then it will later be as an action item so we can all have time to make informed decisions. And then another thing that I wanted to state is it's okay to ask questions, but the questions that we should be asking should be sincere and not as a way to like get other people or be like performative. In my view, there's really no questions that are off limits, and it's okay if you don't understand fully what is happening or you haven't read the meeting minutes. It's just we need to be upfront with that and clear about that, so we're voting on something completely informed when we're voting on it, if that makes sense. Yeah, and at least in the way that I will run this is it's not who can ever talk the fastest or like be the most loud that wins a conversation. It's really not how I deal with either debating or disagreeing on a situation. And I 100% guarantee you that we will likely disagree on many things as this comes. And one final thing that I wanted to say is it is okay to vote differently than everybody else at this board. It is completely okay to have everybody else can vote yes and you can vote no. There's nothing to be shamed or embarrassed about doing that. That's completely okay, and in fact it's an encouragement if that's what you agree with. Students have voted for you and entrusted you with this power to do what you think is in their best interest. So I know that that was a lot, so I'm sorry, and so I wanted to open up to the floor with anybody else that would like to share how they would like to have discussions, disagree, and kind of some boundaries for communicating.
I think that was well said. Like you said earlier.
Can I ask a super quick question?
Please, please.
When we're talking, do you want us to say our last name?
We can, yes. Yeah, I know I haven't been doing that so far, but if we would like to, we can start. Would we like to, when we speak, in previous years, they've just said their last name. In other years, they've said their last name and pronouns. How would we like to move forward as a board doing that?
I think it's a good idea to do pronouns, because right now we know each other, but we're gonna have guests come in, and like, if those people don't know us, we want them referring to us like in an appropriate, respectful manner. So yeah, I'll say pronouns.
Sounds great. Another thought that I had, because I haven't done it so far in this meeting, I've realized, do we want to refer to each other as our official positions when discussing each other? And like in informal motions, I feel like I'll definitely do it and acknowledge you as like Vice President Godwin, but do we want to refer to each other as that? Or would we like to refer to each other on a first name basis, last name basis? How would we like to address each other within the meeting?
I think Pratt, I think it'd be kind of funny if every time we were talking to one another, it's like, Vice President Godwin or something, like we can be kind of casual about it. I don't think it's that big of a deal.
Yeah, well, I think we can just refer to ourselves or refer to each other by first name, if everyone's good with that.
Yeah.
Cool.
Or we're talking like when we're like in conversation or like discussion about an item, or we're like first name.
That's what I meant, yeah.
And then like making a motion or something, having it be like the professional title. Yeah.
Ryan, she, her. When if I like acknowledge you, I'll be like Vice President with. And just, there's a certain level of respect that I feel like it provides you. So at least in making like a motion or acknowledging another person at the table, I definitely will refer to you with your full position, but I agree with Gabe that we should use first names when addressing each other in conversation. I feel like it could also lead to more of the de-escalation point of it, where it doesn't need to feel as heated or big or so serious. It is serious, but Does anybody else have anything that they would like to share?
Well, I would say, just like being like genuinely curious about things that are being presented. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that would make them, going off of that, being like open-minded and like being okay with like being undecided and like open to hearing people's like arguments and not always like going to something with your mind made up on how you're gonna do it.
Ryan Shinko, sorry, I'm taking note of that.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that we would like to discuss in this? And this is also something that we can add to the agenda at a later point and discuss further. This isn't a conversation that needs to end here. We could also even draft up some ground rules based on the discussion today. So pass it or something so we kind of have more of a baseline of how to talk to each other.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay. It looks like we can move on then from ground rules to discussion. So I'm going to hand it over to Vice President Pratt.
Cool. So this is going to be a very quick little rundown, but we're changing the membership of the ASWWU committee a bit. I will be remaining as co-chair, and then we're going to be bringing on Morgan into the committee. And I know that you expressed some stuff about scheduling and everything, but since we are on a rolling basis, it shouldn't be super difficult to manage. And then, since we no longer have the Environmental Justice and Planning Office within the AS, it's been absorbed by the Sustainability Engagement Institute, we're going to open that spot up to another at-large position. The rationale behind this is so that we can hopefully get more folks from outside of the College of the Environment to serve on the committee, which right now it is very sustainability focused, which is great, but it is also sustainability, equity, and justice. So we're focusing on one thing when we should be focusing on all of it. And then some very small other stuff. The one AS senator, then we just added as appointed by the AS Senate President, because I mean it's kind of obvious that you would be appointing folks, but it just wasn't in there. And then in the non-voting members, we, for the SEJF grant ambassadors, we just added a little S in parentheses as there are 2 folks that hold that position and both will be coming to meetings. So just minor grammatical stuff. And then for the rules of op, it's the same exact thing for the other document. It's just changing them so they're the same for each document. And then this is a new development. As of yesterday, we're not going to have one faculty representative as a voting member. We're going to have 3 different ones that are going to cycle in depending on what the grant is like for. So if we have someone from the urban planning department, maybe for a infrastructure-based grant, they're going to be more attuned to the inner workings of that, and they're going to be able to provide more expertise. So come next week, when I would like to get this approved, that will be amended and more accurate. But aside from that, that's all I got. If anyone has any questions, I'll look at things.
I have one few things. So the only edits were the like membership.
With the membership, yeah. With the dissolvement of an AS office that was kind of very important to this committee, it kind of threw everything for a loop, but yeah. And then also a note is that right now, Lindsay McDonald, who is the Associate Director for the SEI, Sustainability Engagement Institute, she is serving in the grant coordinator position as Zinta, who holds that office officially, is out on medical leave, so. Yeah.
Godwin, Dana, how many people like make up the full committee?
Full committee, it's varied, but it looks like about 10 to 11-ish. One of the big issues last year was committee membership. Like, we couldn't get grants approved until like winter quarter because we just couldn't fill in the spots. So this upcoming year, or this upcoming quarter, we already have 2 applicants. I'm waiting to bring those to the board until we have 4 so we can fill all those seats at once. But it looks like we're full steam ahead on getting the committee filled out, so it should be cool.
Senator Sheeger, I just wanted to say, like, really good job on this. I think that this looks really good. I really like the idea.
Thank you.
Getting more down.
So see what we can do.
Walk a few days. I'm just wondering, in the rules of office, like, it kind of repeats the membership. I don't know if that's like on purpose or.
That's what Seb had in there, so I'm not sure if the redundancy is entirely necessary, but yeah, it's just in there. I can remove it, but yeah. Would you recommend that I do that?
I would recommend that you just like kind of say the membership is like listed like in charter, yeah. Just because you'll see basically in any committee at the university that the membership would be different on different parts of the website. So it's better to just have one place instead of places where they disagree. Then one last thing I would note is as sort of in like documents for meetings, I think it's helpful to use like sort of format track changes where you have the underlines where you've added things and the crossouts like either with track changes itself or you can do it manually with underlines and strike throughs, but that's useful. So when we're preparing for the meeting, you like know what's changed. Yeah.
Cool. We've got 2 new grants that just got approved, so that's cool.
One question that I have is, Ryan, she, her, is the only changes that were made to the rules of operation as well, was it just the committee membership change?
Yeah.
Are there any final questions? Okay, I will pass it over to Vice President Godwin for the Legislative Affairs Council Charge and Charter doc.
Godwin with I have a little like write-up because I was nervous about this meeting. But the Legislative Affairs Council, LAC for short, our charge and charter, we have like 7 primary like goals and responsibilities, which is encourage civic engagement, craft legislative agendas, influence statewide policy, connect with elected officials, shape higher education policy, manage financial resources, and advocate for student interests. So our intention this year is to prioritize intersectionality. We are seeking to recruit members with diverse experiences and perspectives because representation matters, especially in the area of legislation and the legislature. So the proposed changes to the charter mainly have to do with membership. You can see there's a lot of strike-throughs there. So 2 things, the Graduate Student Advisory Council is no longer active, and also the ESP, which was what the environmental sustainability programs, is no longer part of the AS. It's evolved into the Sustainability Engagement Institute, and we're gonna use them.
Yeah, I don't know anything about it,
Okay.
but it is supposedly under their umbrella.
Right. So we were looking to replace the ESP with the SEI, the Sustainability Engagement Institute, and for the graduate students, we are gonna we want to move that into the at-large positions, because when we recruit the graduate students, it's gonna be like the graduate students at large. So it makes sense to just put that under the same umbrella. And so with regard to like specific labeled membership, LGBTQ+ Western and the Ethnic Student Center are going to be returning members. we want to add the Black Student Coalition, the Blue Resource Group, and the Disability Outreach Center. Again, just so those groups have like a literal seat at our table and we can give them different perspectives. Because when we're writing our legislative agenda, like specifically, we want it to be representative of the student body at Western is diverse. And so that's important to me and to my vice chair, Stella Seth, the director of legislative affairs. So I've been in conversation with these different groups and like the department heads about being involved in the LAC, but I'm gonna send out a formal email invitation tomorrow. And next week I'll be working on actively recruiting, having meetings, showing up, and then I'm gonna work with the, current, I can't find the right word, but the people who are like technically on the LOC right now, the people from the OCE, we're gonna be reviewing the applications, and then I'm hoping by October 16th, the week of October 16th, we'll have that prepared and ready for approval so we can like begin our work following the week of October 16th. And nothing else in the charter really changed. It was just membership. Vice President.
Oh, you're just in so pretty. This looks beautiful. Although one thing that I ran into a small problem with running committees last year was making quorum. And I know that LAC is like has so much engagement, so this might not even be a problem. But with the voting members, it might be difficult to make quorum with a lot of people on there, and well, like all these people like should be on there. It can just be a problem, like logistically. So
yeah, that's my worry that I have, because we are in like the idea stage of we want to have these groups here, and then I'm in the process of like meeting with the department heads, and then they're going to be working to find like who would be a good fit. And so like the actually having people on the committee, like people who can commit to it for weekly meetings, that's going to be the real challenge.
Pratt Hingham, this also, I'm gonna follow suit, says, this looks great. For the SEI student staff representative, do you already have someone in mind? Because they have 3 student staff representatives and one of them is a senator. So I'm not sure if that might pose any issues. But I just wanted to put that out there. And the other 2 folks are probably super willing, but just so that you know, it might cause a conflict of interest there.
Okay, yeah. I have like been told that they have 3 student staff representatives. I didn't know one of them was on the Senate.
Yeah.
We were also considering like having a senator, but having them within students at large. But as you can see, that's not written in. So we're considering if y'all have any like input on that. I'd appreciate it. Yeah.
A couple of things, Ryan, she, her. Number 1, have you gotten explicit approval from all of the professional staff and advisors that oversee all of the student staff representatives on here?
Explicit approval?
Yes.
No.
Okay, I don't feel comfortable approving a charge and charter with student staff representatives on it that we do not have explicit approval from their advisors to have them on. As somebody who served on the legislative advisors for the Legislative Action Fund, or Legislative Affairs Council last year, oh my goodness. The fund is what funds it. As somebody who sat on it last year, we had an ESP representative who was on it as a student staff representative, but because there was no communication between the chair of the committee and the student's advisor, this student came to one meeting and then never came to another. And then an additional thing that I wanted to state is, since we've added so much student staff representatives similar to what Sophie said, is we're still keeping the 5 to 7 at-large number, which was a fairly large number. Now that we've added so many representatives that are student staff representatives, I really would consider bringing down the student at-large number, since one, there's been no advertising of it yet. 2, last year, no more than 3 at-large students ever came to the meetings, and I think we had 6 at-large members last year.
Okay.
We continued to struggle with quorum, and we had even less students than is on here now.
Okay.
And then the final thing that I wanted to say is if we have a student senator at large that's serving as an at-large position, that student is going to be an at-large representative, and they're going to be unpaid for their time.
Okay.
And so if we want a student senate on there, we have to explicitly say a student senate representative, but that does bring up the question why we would have a student senate representative when the what is it called? The agenda, the lobby day, the lobbying agendas, they only go through the executive board. They don't go through the student senate through timelines. And one of the important reasons to have a student senator is to have somebody reporting back to that body. But if the body isn't going to be voting on it, it might not be the most beneficial to have a representative.
Yeah, well, I was under the impression there was already a student senator seat, but after looking at what was approved last year, it looks like there wasn't. Yeah, so sort of what we had talked about last year with the LAC was sort of, there was like an implicit understanding that there was like a senator on the LAC. I didn't know it was in the name position. I think that senators have been really involved, they were at least last year in wanting to be involved in the legislative affairs sort of things. And I think that the reason why sort of over this summer, me and Kira kind of thought that the LAC should, at least the charter and the, what's it called, lobbying agendas will only go through the executive board, makes sense, logistically, because of the fast pace of the state legislative process, and I think it's sort of implicit in that, underneath that position that we should only go through exec for the speed, was an understanding that there would be student senate input in at the LAC level. So I would be in favor of putting at least one, just one would make sense, named student senate seat on the committee.
Yeah, so I was told by users when I was doing training that it would pass through the exec and the senate, so it's only going to be through exec for the same time. Yeah, I personally would like to have a senator dedicated. The only thing is purely meeting time. We're deciding between Monday or Tuesday at 5:30 p.m. And I know they'll have your meetings Monday evening, so I would be willing to pull for Tuesday evening. It's just it's really hard finding meeting time. We all know that. And yeah, once I can lock down. If we do a Tuesday evening, I can write that in there. That's the only conflict that there would be in my mind. Also, Kira, could you what number would you suggest for an at-large?
The most that I've ever, Ryan Sheeher, the most that I've ever seen on a charter before for at-large students is normally between 3 and 4, 2 to 4, 4 really being the max. LAC is the only one that I've ever seen reach the 5 range, and that's, and even up to 7, it's a lot.
Yeah.
I do like the possibility of, because you're definitely right, Gabe, I totally forgot about that. I do like the idea of a student senator being named on there, but I think it would also be beneficial to not just having a student senator being on there and then just, oh, we're done with student senate, it's done, we have the representative, but making sure that there is continual presentations to both boards and not just the one representative from the student senate, but approaching Gabe and asking if you can be on the agenda for a student senate meeting, or if Stella can be on the agenda and present at a student senate meeting and give an update about what you guys are doing.
Yeah, I think that sounds great.
Which I would say did a great job at diversifying what we're trying to get on board. I don't know if you've talked to the Blue Resource Group, but they do have 2 student staff, so I just don't know how available they would be.
Yeah.
So since I just know they only have 2 students on their staff right now, so just put me through that.
Yeah, I was wondering, because we just talked about the sustainability and equity and justice fund. Would you be interested in having a role on the LSC? Yeah.
I was just gonna raise it that I could like also fill in that position if you can't find someone, so.
Okay. Yeah, I was asked like, oh, like with the VP for diversity, with the VP for sustainability, like want to have a role. I was like, I don't know, that might be like kind of like exec board heavy, but I am very new to this, so I don't really know like the precedent. And yeah, if y'all like can find time for it, I think that'd be really cool. Yeah.
I love the idea, especially with the having student staff representatives not confirmed if they're able to per their work schedule or their advisor. The only thing that I really kind of want to bring up as a question about that is if we do add more VPs on there, it's not supposed to be necessarily student gov run. It's really supposed to be about the students. That's why we put out the agenda or the forum. That's why we had so many student at-larges on there. So we're really getting a lot of people on there. And it also eventually goes through all of us too. So it will become before the board. And if we have 3 people and there's only going to be 7 of us here, and if almost half of us are on the committee making the agenda, it just brings up kind of a couple concerns in my mind about that. But I do like that idea. But there might be other ways that we could be like collaborative in the process too. Like you or Stella coming and presenting the agenda and us sharing thoughts or ideas on it. But just a couple of things to consider. It can really go.
No, for sure. I mean, William, thank you for your offer. I think hopefully we'll be able to find someone from Sustainability Engagement Institute, and definitely for at-large, like we are seeking people like from environmental backgrounds. I have like someone in mind that I think having you on especially would be really great, like with the connections that you're building with different areas on campus. And if we're not able to lock down some of these groups, like I personally would like to have you there again, like if you're able to commit.
Which here, I also agree. I think if we can't find sufficient student staff representatives from these groups, then I would definitely look into that.
Cool. Is there any more comment on the presented LAC charge and charter? Oh, I have a question. Should I have a rules of operation? Like the SCJ does?
I would say it could be useful. I think if you have it, it would be sort of about how, like, what process you go through for making the agendas. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that would be helpful, like for myself, and then for like onboarding with people, just so like they have something to look at and be like, oh, this is what I'm doing. This is like, because the legislative agenda is like the primary task, along with the civic engagement and the budget and all these other things. The making the agenda is like a very like substantive responsibility. Garrett.
Ryan, she, her. I do like the idea of a rules of operation. My only, especially since anything that's attached to a fee, like SCJF is attached to one of the AS student fees, same with the Legislative Action Fund, which comes for the LAC or the Legislative Action Committee. The only thing is a lot of the SCJF rules of operation focus on how they approve grants.
Oh, I see.
LAC doesn't do a lot of grants or grant approval. The only thing that I can think of a grant approval that they approved in the past 2 years was they approved a grant for the Office of Civic Engagement to buy condoms and dental dams in 2022. But other than that, most of it has been to pay the Washington Student Association dues and then also to fund trips to Olympia. But I do think it's definitely something I encourage you to pursue. It's just thinking about what would go in there, but I also encourage you to maybe pursue it later in the quarter, just because of the time-intensive work that is creating the lobbying agenda, and then also planning for lobby day, and then the local lobby day agenda too. So 3 big things that you guys do that are phenomenal.
Cool, yeah.
Forgive my ignorance, but what do we get by being a member of the WSA? Like, what are we paying for exactly?
Yeah, Ryan, she, her, that's such an interesting question. It's a really important question to answer. I think that that's something that we're working on exploring right now to really understand the full things that they give us, because they give us representation down in Olympia by a paid student lobbyist. The current student lobbyist, his name is Colin, he goes to WSU, but he also works as their DOLA. So he's working full-time as WSA's DOLA, and also our Director of Legislative Affairs for WSA, and he's also working as a student lobbyist for WSA and WSU. So that is what they give us. They provide assistance down in Olympia for all higher education student lobbyists when they're living down in Olympia. So they'll be giving some assistance to Stella this year when she's down in Olympia. And then they also provide us with some professional leadership and development stuff that they're supposed to give us through. They have different leadership seminars that we can attend that they don't give us information on until a week before. And they are supposed to provide help with voter hubs that we have on campus, because it's WSA that wanted voter hubs to be on campus and pass that through the legislature. But I've been involved with voter hub at Western for 2 years now, and not this year, 2 previous years, and there has been no help from WSA in terms of voter hub. So, yes.
And follow up, how much are we paying? If you know.
It's $30,000 yearly, correct?
Actually less than that. It is very confusing. So I had a meeting with Cindy Longer, who is like a budget expert, and she said we've been paying around $15,000 a year, and they have said that they are going to double it, and they wanted to double it to 30,000, but then also have talked about increasing it more, so that we're lacking clarity on that. There's a WSA General Assembly that's going to be coming up in 2.5 weeks, October 20th and 21st. So that's something that's going to be on my personal and professional agenda, looking into.
It's on mine now too.
Yeah, how much are we paying, and why are we paying that? What are we getting out of this? That's what I'm going to be like there to investigate.
Cool. And I didn't mean to steer away from this one, but that was good.
Ryan, Sheeter. And an important thing to note on that too is we currently at General Assembly will have 7 delegates that are going to be going, 3 from the Senate, 3 from the Executive Board, and then also the Director of Legislative Affairs. And the main conversation that is going to be happening at the General Assembly past passing their lobby day agenda is the conversation of their fees and increasing their fees. So that's the big conversation that they're going to be having. And we'll get to have with them.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, any final thoughts on the LAC charter? I think I'm gonna go back, well, we have a Teams, so I'm gonna be in communication with them about those recommendations and following up on that so that I can come back for next week's meeting prepared. Kira, you had said you're not like feeling comfortable with like approving the charter until we have like the explicit and like approval and like knowledge of the department head, so that's when I met with Nia Gibson, the director coordinator for the Black Student Coalition, and I'm going to be like scheduling those meetings in the upcoming week and like having this conversation. So hopefully, I intend by Thursday like to have that approval and consent ready. So, you know, given that, would we be able to approve this next week?
Ryan, she, her, we can always put it on the agenda possibly, since we're not fully sure, we can put it on as an info item and then we can move it to an action item if that's what we come to. And then also, if we put it on as an info item and there are edits that we want to make actively in the board meeting, that is completely fine too and something that we can do. So if we come and the charter that you provide has a member on there, like LGBTQ plus Western. Let's say they're on there, but you come to the meeting and we've been told no, that somebody from LGBTQ plus Western can't be on there, then we can in meeting move it to an action item and do it with revisions of removing that one student staff representative.
All right, last call on thoughts and comments. Going once, going twice.
Okay, so next we are going to be moving on to the Vice President for Activities appointment discussion. That is going to be Doc 5 and 6 that we are going to be looking at. The first document, number 5, is going to be the bylaws. What page is this? It's on page 3. It is under Article 4, Governance, Section C, Vacancy and Recall. So what we kind of need to discuss today and are here is to decide how we would like to move forward filling the vacancy that is the Vice President for Activities position. It states that in, I want to make sure I'm quoting the correct part, excuse me.
So section 2.
Yeah. So it's both section 2, if vacancies exist in any of the executive board positions during winter quarter, the position should be filled through special election proceedings, and then also sections 4, if vacancies exist in any of the executive positions during winter or spring quarter, it is at the discretion of the seated board members to hold a vote to decide between filing the position through a special election proceedings or appointment proceedings as outlined in section section 3. One thing that is important to note, and the reason why I'm bringing this to the board today is because the vacancy of the VP for activities happened at an intersession. And so we were unsure how to move forward, and so we thought it would be best to come before the board at the first board meeting. There's not lots of and how to move forward with something that is of a priority, of something meeting before or outside our regularly scheduled meetings. And so it happened during an intersession of in between spring and fall quarter. It is fall quarter now. And the other important thing that is important to note is the position who runs the elections is through the Office of Civic Engagement. It is the Office of Civic Engagement Elections Coordinator, and that position runs the student elections. They run it through WIN, they govern the process of the filing forum, but that position is currently vacant and so the position duties are being taken over by the Office of Civic Engagement Director. Yeah, which is an interesting perspective because I had served as both of those roles in the Office of Civic Engagement at one point or another in my academic career here at Western, and the elections is a beast all on its own. That is a lot, and a lot of rules that go along with it, along with the needing to create an ethics board that we don't have up and running that can take upwards of an 8-week process to get going sometimes. We have to recruit large amounts of at-large students, some that will all get a stipend of like $100 and something, and we have to get a lot of things moving that might be very challenging for the current Office of Civic Engagement Director at the same time as leading an activities programmatic office on campus. So yeah, just wanted to bring that to the entire board so we can discuss about it and move forward with how we would like to proceed moving forward. And then document 6 is the job description. The job of Vice Presidents for Activities, currently as the Senate, or as the AS President, I am overseeing most of their committee responsibilities, including the AS Activities Council currently. And so it's of the utmost importance that we fill it. Yes. Erin?
Rather they, them. Yeah, so I was looking at the bylaws and it was saying like if there's a vacancy in the fall quarter, like it should be filled by an election, but you saying that like the vacancy occurred like in an interim period, you know, I think that like gray area kind of works in our favor because I work with the OCE a lot, and the elections coordinator position is currently vacant. I think from what I've last heard, like they are like hiring and like onboarding for that. That being said, like the responsibility of that role is falling on Mallory Shafar, the director, and I know she's like already has a lot going on, and she's been really anxious about the thought of having to put on an election. So I definitely like agree with what Kira said about like, although it says like in the bylaws, like it, I like, you know, written in like it should be like filled by an election, like the logistics of holding that election, I think like would be detrimental to the objective of getting the position filled.
Yes,
Pratt, just one quick note, this is outdated, right?
yes, yeah, Ryan, she, her, all of the job descriptions are outdated. They have not been updated in 2 years.
And that's what's on the website? Like when folks apply, they see that?
Correct.
That's a problem.
You actually applied with an outdated job description
That's
for
crazy.
your position. Yes, Sophie.
I wanted to say that we appointed a VP for diversity last year. We had like a similar thing happen, and I mean, Morgan, you've met Boley. Boley was wonderful, and so I think that like you guys, I trust your judgment, Kira, on what you want to do. I think there are definitely benefits to both, but I think an appointment process might be faster, and it sounds like there might be some issues there, and I think it might be more important to get someone off the executive board faster, so we can get more work done.
Ryan, she, her, one thing that I want to make clear is it's not my decision, it's everybody's decision here in this room. We will take a vote and we will decide that way. If we want to fill it with an election, that is completely okay. If that is what we decide is the best thing for students, the best thing for our board, filling this position. But if we decide that we would like to go through an appointment process, that is also something that we can decide as well, so, yes.
Godwin, they, them, what would the appointment process look like?
Yeah, Kira, she, her. So it is, as far as I'm aware, at least in our bylaws, is the, from what we have is that there's going to be a committee that's formed with the VP for Governmental Affairs and the Personnel Director. It's in, if we can go back to document 5, in the bylaws. Yeah, so it's under vacancy and recall C, section 3. If vacancies exist in any of the executive board positions during the spring quarter, the president shall hold a filing period of at least 10 days for a potential application and shall form a committee of the Vice President for Governmental Affairs and Personnel Director. This committee shall present at least 2 names for the board for selection and ratification. Notice such vacancies shall be advertised widely on campus, and the president shall wait at least 5 working days after such notice before making such appointments. One thing to note, though, is that it states that this is if a vacancy happens in spring quarter, yet in section 4 below, if there is a vacancy in winter or quarter, it says to follow with the outlined proceedings of the section above it.
Okay. Why ask? Because I'm not gonna.
Yeah, Ryan, she, her. Another thing that's important to note too is at least in previous appointment processes, those who sit on the committee also do at least some training, I think some anti-bias training at least, and then it's past just our regular, I think, sitting on like, what is it called, like hiring committees. There's some training past just the basic training for hiring committees, some like personalized training that has happened previously. So. Yes.
One today. I guess I would pose the question to all of you is, do you guys think that there is an ambiguity here, or that we clearly have a decision to make it an appointment or election, or is it very clear that it has to be an election? Yeah, so I think those are the 3 options. Like, do you guys think it's ambiguous? Do you think that we have to have an election, or do you think that it's very clear that we can choose?
What do you think?
I think that I think it's ambiguous as well.
Yeah, Godwin, they, them. I thought it was pretty clear, but again, because the vacancy happened internally, it's ambiguous, and we can make that decision.
I agree with this.
Well, Bob Snyder's here. I didn't know that we were like, but I think since it wasn't a period in between, I mean, I don't see any, I looked, I don't see anything that says anything about that in the bylaws, so I feel like that's kind of our call.
Ryan, she, her, the only question that I pose is it at the detriment to students if we fill it for a vacancy? Is that the most fair or just thing that we can provide students with? Because we won't be having students that are on campus partaking in deciding who is going to be the VP for activities. Instead, it is going to be the executive board that is going to be appointing it. So is it in the best interest of students?
Yes, right, she, her. and you may have already answered this question, do we know how many people ran for that position? If we had like 11 people, it was only one?
I'm fairly certain it was just Noah.
Yeah, Ryan, her, originally we had two, and I think one person dropped, and then it was unopposed last year. We can also check. Yes, yeah, it was just Noah who ran last year. We've continually had a problem with engagement in not only having people run in the election, but also vote in the election as well. I think last year was an all-time low, I think, or if one of the lowest years we've had, where only, I think less than 5% of students voted, possibly even less than that. Yes, I
think, excuse me, I can make an, Loria Peaham, Student Government Advisor, I can make an advisory note for you, just to add information with the ambiguity in the bylaws, not being the vacancy not being in fall quarter is clear. If you all want to do final due diligence, which is what I would suggest, we can have it reviewed even up to the AAG, Assistant Attorney General level, just of the bylaws, if that is helpful for you all in making that decision. But I think you should be comfortable that you're okay making an appointment should you feel the need to proceed that direction, with the caveat, of course, we'll do due diligence if there's any reflection by other advisors that that's not appropriate. We'll let you know.
Yes, yeah.
That one made them, like with regard to the question of like, is it to the detriment of the students if we don't have an election, which is like a super valid question, but then there's also the question of, is it to the detriment of the students if that position is vacant for like a long period of time? Because I think we all agree the work that we're doing here like is important, and we would like to have that colleague working with us. I was in the office last week, and there was somebody who walked in and was like, "Oh, I'm looking for Noah Schneckseyer." If I say his name right. You know, like I'm looking for the VP for activities. Like, where's he? I was like, that position's vacant right now, and he was like, "Oh, like I need help with like a club issue." And there was just no one there to like help him. So, I am in favor of doing an appointment. Just, you know, bring it out there.
Pratt, I'm gonna second that, not that this is a vote, but to your point, or to your question of asking if we're leaving the student body out of this decision by not holding an election, I understand that sentiment, but given the circumstances and given the fact that we are all elected representatives of the student body, we make tons of decisions already, and while this is impactful, we're choosing someone that's going to be representing the whole sector of the AS and the university. That power is imbued to us, and that trust is imbued in us to make that decision. So if we have these situations like this, we can't constantly be delegating that back to the student body because we were elected to make those decisions. I'm not sure if on their behalf is the right way to put that, but in a similar vein to that.
Yeah. Ryan, Sheeher, one thing that I want to note is while we have a vacancy of this position, and if there is a student who reaches out, a student who is busy, please point them in my direction, since I will be filling that position from now on. Any email that goes to the VP for activities is automatically forwarded to the AS president, and currently I'm taking over most of their committee roles and any other work currently, and then we'll be possibly needing help with you guys to delegate some of that work in the next coming weeks until we can have it filled. But currently, right now, it's just a couple of things, and the position really amps up a lot more in the winter quarter when it comes to different committees.
Along with you, I think that, yeah, having someone in that position right now is probably like the best for students. I would like move that we do like appoint the VP for activities by like approve the last item appointment. Yeah, that's a motion, yeah. Press seconds.
One question is it's currently an info item, we have to move to make it an action item before we can do that, correct? I would like to invite, Senate President Gabe to make that motion.
Long moves, that we, that we move, the Vice President for Activities appointment discussion to action.
Press seconds.
Moved and seconded, any discussion? All those in favor of adopting the motion say aye. Those opposed? Any abstentions? The motion is approved.
Ooh, first vote of the year.
Yay.
We're clapping for us.
Yes, yeah, we have to vote again.
Oh,
We voted to vote on it. Okay.
oh,
I do have to go, so I think
Yes,
that,
yeah, let's.
well, are we gonna vote first, or is there any more, I need my glasses, I can't read if there's any more information.
there's Parley Pro,
Okay.
which is 15 minutes.
Well, I invite, the chair to table Parley Pro for next meeting, so we can move on to, on the reviews.
Yeah, Ryan Sheeher, I move to table parliamentary procedure until the next meeting of October 12th, 2023. For all of those items. Moved and seconded, is there any discussion? All those in favor, say aye. Those opposed? Any abstentions? The motion is approved, so that is tabled until the next meeting.
Can I say something?
Yes, yeah.
I fully support your decision. Just to reiterate, if you held like an election, how long would that election take versus like if you took a media decision? Seeing as I have been in the Senate for like, not the Senate, but seeing the Senate for 3 years, the first year that I was SGA, it was horrible to like just to meet quorum, and we had like double the amount of people that you guys do. So if you're just like missing one person, it really makes or breaks whether or not you can do like an action or not.
Yes, yeah, no, that's a very good point. Yeah, because currently right now, or Ryan Sheeher, currently right now, quorum is 4 of us. So there has to be 4 of us here in order to make a motion, or to do essentially any business, whether there's 6 of us, or whether there's meeting activities or not. Were you asking how long the discussion or the election would be, correct? Is that what you were asking?
Yeah, I mean, if you guys had let it be in the students' hands, like how long would it be just to get someone to apply for it and then have people vote for them?
Yeah, that's a really good question. We would have to refer to the elections code. There's specific dates that we have to follow. To my knowledge, it's about 2 weeks at a minimum of campaigning and then an election, and that does not include the filing period, which, yes.
I don't want to interrupt, so finish your.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I think filing periods traditionally have been about a month-long process in previous years.
Yeah, Lorio, PM advisory note, election process will be longer than appointment process, period. That's your fact.
Okay, let's move on to action items, which is the Vice President for Activities appointment decision. Yeah, well, we first need somebody to make a motion for it before we can do it. So I invite any of the Vice Presidents or Senate Presidents to make a motion.
I'm trying to figure out phrasing.
That's what I'm trying to do right now.
Do I choose something? Godwin, I move. Godwin, I move to, in favor of appointing a vice president to activities. like this open?
I think that works. It's like fill the vice president for activities vacancy via appointment.
Fill the vice president for activities vacancy for appointment.
Anyone else want to say?
1 second.
Moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Those in favor of filling the vice president for activities vacancy via appointment, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Any abstentions? The motion is approved as stated.
I just realized that you guys had quorum without me and there was no reason to table it, I'm so sorry.
It's okay, it's okay.
Thank you guys, so such a good first meeting.
Yeah, and then, oh yeah, and then other business, there's nothing, and then, Ryan, Peter, I call this meeting to end at 6:49 p.m. I guess I didn't do that for any of the motions that we passed, but that's okay. That's okay. I'm not.